This is ArtMingle, Insight to Impact. I am your host, Mika Heikkilä. Many know me as the artist Mika Oulu. ArtMingle is where culture meets communities and economy. We speak plainly, we follow evidence, we ask how ideas become choices that people keep. Subscribe and join community that turns cultural insights into action. Joining me is Annamari Arrakoski-Engardt, CEO of the John Nurminen Foundation, an independent Finnish foundation that is a bridge between science, culture and everyday action. It protects the Baltic Sea while also safeguarding the stories, maps and art that connect people to it. Under Annamari's leadership, the foundation has turned big ideas into practical action, from public events like Baltic Sea Day to hands-on eelgrass restoration. Let's find out how culture, policy and partnership turns Baltic insights into impact. Annamari, welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Great. I would love to start with the simple one. What's the moment that made the Baltic feel like yours?
The first time I ever sailed on the Baltic Sea, which was in Lappeenranta, when I was 7 years old. We were visiting some relatives who had these very small sailing boats where you sail on your own. So my father, who is a sailor as a hobby, put me in this boat and showed shortly which toes I should use in order to handle with the sail. And then he let me loose, and it was a good wind and all that. And then suddenly I had the feeling, this is it, until I got afraid. Do I really land in Soviet Union, and who is going to rescue me? But this was the moment.
Yeah, that's a great story. Then a little bit about culture and people and turning care into action, and especially maritime heritage, how it can become behavior. So can you give me one concrete example where a maritime story or cultural action made people change a specific behavior?
You really hit the point, because this is what we are aiming at, both with our cultural work as well as with the ecological large-scale projects, because nothing is enough if we people do not change the way how we live, because we are part of the ecological or the ecosystem as such. One of the good examples is basically a project which we had at the Archipelago Sea area here in the Finnish coastlines. It was 5 years ago when we started a project called Fishing Close By. In Finnish it would be lähikala, where we bought fishermen a certain type of nets where they could fish underfished fish, it's too bony, so we are too lazy. We people are nowadays so used to at the Norwegian salmon or our own Finnish salmon to eat it because it's less bones, and if you can buy it as a fillets, and it's ready made, and everything is easy. But this bream, for example, has a lots of fish bones, so it's more work and hard to do. So we were able to support fishermen to fish these fish types which love the eutrophicated water, and take basically living space from the other types of fish, like the ones we actually more or less like to eat and buy. And this bream is really good fish to eat, but it's easy to prepare as a food if you have it. The fish bones are taken off. So we organize this kind of a value chain from the fishermen until to the shops, the finish in the supermarket, so that you could buy fish patties that were made in Finland, fished in the Baltic Sea, and you could buy them from the refrigerators in the supermarkets and easily just fry it in your pan. And while eating a very tasty fish patty, you were basically cleaning up the Baltic Sea while doing it. And this kind of project and value chain changed also the attitude of people towards the other types of fish we have and we used to eat, like let's say 40 years ago. And it kind of, the bream, for example, really had a new coming, a kind of renaissance. Even the bream that were fished from the lake areas got their market space in the supermarkets, and we kind of found that kind of fish and our part in the ecosystem again. So I think this is one of the good examples how the ecological work meets behavioral or the human everyday life, and we can really, looking at our table and looking at our plate, we can basically help the Baltic Sea or our lakes every day.
Yes.
A long answer, sorry.
No, it's always good to have a long answer. You get a better understanding. Then Baltic Sea Day, the annual kind of event or ritual. What does that the last Thursday of August achieve beyond awareness?
Now in its 7th year, we can say that it really achieves the mindset of us, of the sea people, basically all the people living at the Baltic Sea, not only on the coastline, but also in the middle Finland or middle Sweden or someplace where you don't see the sea every day, because we have learned that all the waters, for example, in Finland, from all the lakes and rivers, they end up in the Baltic Sea. So we are all sea people in that sense. And the Baltic Sea Day basically has achieved the rise of awareness. Why do we need the sea? Not only for fun and swimming and sailing, or not only for transport. 95% of our anything in Finland comes and goes by or through the sea, I mean with shipping. And all the seas in sea areas in the world, they produce over 50% of our oxygen. So we need, everybody needs seas to produce the oxygen to breathe, but also the food. But it's also more than that. We have a wonderful joint culture. We share not only the history with Sweden or some other countries on the Baltic Sea, but we have a wonderful joint culture when it comes to music, even literature, painting, or foremost, obviously, seafaring. And I do hope that we share also the same mission of the hopefully healthy Baltic Sea as it is.
How do you track the Baltic Sea Day? How it's working from year to year?
We track it, and obviously we have this Baltic Sea Day website where we encourage those organizations or companies or even private people to register their own event or the way how they are celebrating the Baltic Sea Day, wherever they are celebrating it. So we count how many companions we have and also in which countries. We also track the size or the growth of the Baltic Sea Day, obviously in the how it shows in the social media, and it has been growing every year over 100%. It's unbelievable, and it's great to see that. And obviously also in media coverage, how many media and different main medias do deal with the Baltic Sea Day, or which part of Finland or Sweden or Estonia, the Baltic countries, Lithuania and Latvia are very good, have been improving their Baltic Sea Day activities this year. And we are now really happy that Poland, Denmark and Germany also have started. They are still in baby steps, but they have started.
I think it's a great event. It was 2 years ago when I first took part in it, and I was doing an interview of an author in Oulu. It was a great day, and I really think it brings kind of awareness also, but that awareness can change into behavior also, and to much more. Then about youth and events, which youth-facing action have made the biggest difference, and why do the young people care?
Perhaps to the second part of your question first, I'm not referring to Greta Thunberg, but still perhaps a little bit that youth do care. I mean, obviously, since they have everything in front of them and looking at their life plans and all that, then you really look more critically and perhaps more closely to your environment, your living environment, and what is possible, what kind of careers and what kind of ways of living are actually are there and are or can be planned. And youth is most active, and if we would have ways to help the Baltic Sea in ways of how many hands we would need, it would be already saved. But unfortunately, I cannot use the word unfortunately, but since Baltic Sea differs from its problem map from the oceans, that we don't have the littering is not the main problem, or the plastic is not the main problem. So the number of hands, let's say, collecting trash from beaches or coastline, that's not the key. That helps obviously also and should be done by any kind of jogging or walking. If you see anything or in any kind of nature, obviously we should all do that every day. But since the main problems are the eutrophication and the hazardous substances, meaning the pus substances going from the washing machines through our wastewater plants, or the washing waters of the chemical tankers, or the loss of biodiversity, those kind of things cannot be done by active youth or by active elderly or anybody active. They need big time investments and big time projects. But youth is really good in keeping us alert and keeping us up to speed. And I'm really grateful for that. And I do hope that they will keep our decision makers up to speed also in the future.
Yes. Then about how change actually happens, which simple happy change has made like the water quality or coastline care visibly better?
The main influence and the most cost-effective ways to clean and improve our coastline waters has been the pressure on the decision makers, which is obviously based on the researchers' data, that we have been able to improve the wastewater plants techniques in Finland and all around the Baltic Sea, even including Russia, before the taking of the Crimea and after that the Ukraine war. That the wastewater plant the wastewater treatment at the wastewater treatment plants is in a high level. That has really changed. That was the first really big reduction of nutrients, and it's the most effective way to help us to fight back with the blue-green algae blooms, not only in the Baltic Sea, but also obviously in our lakes and rivers. That happened in the 70s and 80s, and in the Russian and other Baltic countries then in the late 2000s. The second thing is obviously also the change of our ways, how we do with our boats, that we have changed the ways how we paint the boats, that we are not using in Finland anymore those very poisonous paints in order to help the boat, so to say, or the boating, but we are using much more eco-friendly materials, which means that we have to do some other things in order to keep the boat afloat. But that's a big step also when it comes to how much chemicals we have in there, and how do we help the biodiversity or the resilience of the sea, and obviously the change of our diet. What do we eat? If we eat more plant-based or more fish, sustainably fished dishes, then the sea immediately feels better. So those three I would name as one of the main things.
Yeah. So there's lots of research to be done before, and then obviously that research information needs to go sometimes to the policymakers and also probably to the people, so that people care. So who is responsible of doing that? You are one organization doing that. Is there others who do the same thing?
Yes, there are many organizations doing the lobbying, or actually really talking with the politicians and other decision makers. But the researchers, we have a very good research level in Finland, and that's the main research are done in the universities and at the Finnish Environment Center, Syke. Obviously, they collaborate a lot with the Stockholm University, which is really good at the Baltic Sea. They have an extra Baltic Sea science center called Baltic Net, and also obviously in Germany there is a very good research center which is combining the climate change research with the oceanic research. So the researchers are doing their job, and we are keeping very close contact with the researchers and the newest data or the newest methods that could be used in the practical work of really cleaning up or really saving the sea, so that we don't harm the ecosystem, we don't harm the sea while helping it, so to say, that everything we can do is only for the good, for the benefit of the sea. But it's important, like our foundation or some other Finnish foundations or associations, like the Nature Conservation Foundation or the Baltic Sea Action Group or the WWF, we play an important part between the researchers and the decision makers, because we kind of point out the most urgent decisions or directions that should be done. Sometimes they don't even need money. Sometimes it's also a question of where states should put any of their nature conservation funds, so that we would, as a Finns, we could really get most use of our taxpayers as a taxpayer of our money. Hopefully, I answered, Mika, your question.
Yeah. Yes.
Longish thoughts.
Thank you for listening. I make ArtMingle for people like you who build culture. Get the inside article and the short brief at mikaoulu.com/artmingle. Follow me on LinkedIn, join the newsletter, bring a colleague with you next time. There are important systems behind the cleaner water also, in terms of how do you move excess nutrients from where there is too much to where soil can use them so that the sea can benefit. And what usually makes the partners say yes? Is it the lower cost or clear rules or a story?
I have to say all of those. All of the reasons you named motivates those partners that we address. If it's farmers, since agriculture is one of the main sources for the Finnish coastline, one of the main sources for the large nutrient load. Obviously, then there is knowledge, awareness raising needed, and obviously the researchers' data is important in those discussions, as well as the financial support in order to do that. But then obviously when we are talking with the harbors or chemical tankers or chemical industry, then the motivation comes either from what is in for me, so to say, how does these new ways to load or upload the freight in the harbors, what do the companies get out of investing in benefiting the Baltic Sea? So those discussions need different angles, and obviously also kind of the reminding of there is always the way of regulation. So it's, in our point of view, it's always better to do things freely, I mean, on your own space and also on your own money in a way, before it comes regulatory and then you have an obligatory. So then you have no choice but to do things, even though it would not suit your plans or you don't have the extra money. When it comes to the collaboration in the other countries, which we do a lot, we have lots of projects all over the Baltic Sea. Almost at the moment next to the Finnish coastline, we have in Swedish coastline and in the Baltic countries in Poland. Then it's in the Baltic countries and Poland, the EU funding is basically absolutely needed in order to get partners motivated. The Swedes have more also a natural interest in keeping their own coastline in good shape and their own lovely archipelago areas in a good shape. But in those areas where people, because of the different kind of history, they are not so used to enjoying the coastline and its culture because it was militarized areas for so long. Their money is the best motivator.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. And slow change, but
Yes.
surely it will change. Then why are eelgrass meadows a big deal?
Oh, I'm so happy that you asked that because, well, eelgrass is one of the key species of the Baltic Sea. It belongs to the seagrass family. Seagrass is so well known all over the oceans, but we in the Baltic Sea, since the Baltic Sea is so special, we have obviously eelgrass as one of the key species next to the bladderwrack. Eelgrass forms habitats for so many other species that for the biodiversity point of view, it's really key on the survival of the biodiversity in the Baltic Sea. And obviously we can only do the planting of the eelgrass or the replanting of the eelgrass that our foundation is currently doing in Finland, in the coastline of Finland and Sweden, is if we have been able to cut the nutrient load already so that the state of the water has improved, that the eelgrass can survive, obviously, otherwise there's no sense of doing that. But eelgrass is really, it's beautiful meadow. The picture, unfortunately, I don't dive. It would be lovely to be able to dive and see it in my own eyes. But I have also heard that the eelgrass meadows, that they are not quiet because there is so much light. So it's quite a noisy place with all these different animals and fish and crabs and whatever there is doing their job, so to say.
How they can be protected once they are planted, and what can the poachers or coastal towns do differently with them?
One of the main thing is obviously that we don't have eelgrass meadows are not in areas where any kind of bottom trawling is allowed, because bottom trawling, as we now know from the at least latest since the David Attenborough film, I think everybody who has seen it understands that bottom trawling is very harmful for the biodiversity. So that's one of the ways to safeguard it after planting. Second is obviously to really in beforehand to take care of that those meadows are in places where there are no point source leakage possible of nutrients or chemicals or anything else. And then thirdly, that those meadows are not on areas where there are either sailing boat harbors or anything where you actually have lots of anchoring happening. They don't have to be in conservative areas only. It can be in areas where we are boating or swimming or all that. But the main thing is that you don't use the bottom of the sea sediment as for any kind of things. But you can swim over it. But you can, if your boat is not too big, you can actually go over it. But obviously, we do that also in areas that are later on to be conservation areas.
People keep good habits when they see that the habits are working, like a simple scoreboard or at the marina or on a school ball. What's one simple scoreboard number you already track or could track that shows that the sea or community is improving?
One of those things is really that we don't litter anymore. We don't throw things into the sea. And if somebody does it, I've been witnessing that on just sunbathing on the beach. People do start scolding or at least saying that pick it up or take it away. So that's clear for I would say nearly anybody or everybody. And the second thing is on that kind of scoreboard would be that we have understood, and if you have a boat with a toilet, or even without the toilet, that you don't pee in the sea, or if you have the toilet, you don't empty it into the sea, but you use those septic tanks in the harbors, and you are also obviously giving curious feedback if the septic tanks are not working or if they are full or whatever that, and that is a big change too. So that we understand that it's basically like what the Swiss or the people living in the Alps say: whatever you bring into the Alps, you bring it back. So that kind of a way, if you use the sea or even the lakes, whatever water area, you don't leave your marks. And I think this kind of a change of culture and of our habits is necessary, and brings us actually back to the ways of how our ancestors have lived with the nature. And I'm not saying that we have to go back to the Middle Ages or anything, but it's just basically we are in the same circle. And in order to keep the circle going for our children and their children, we really need to try to live with as little marks as we can.
Yeah. Let's scale a little bit to the future, to let's say 2030, and we talked impact at human scale. What then would you scale if you were to get from funder much more bigger focused budget? What would you scale first and why?
That's a very good question. That's a question we got also from the really big funders who want to have the fastest impact in the ocean conservation. That would be in the Baltic Sea because of the eutrophication being the main problem, and the agriculture in Finland, Sweden, and Poland being the main reason. I would really immediately use the gypsum treatment or the recycled lime chalk as a way of reduce the agricultural leakage or discharges. And the second, if I can say already second, would be also to prohibit any kind of washing of any kind of tanks, I would prohibit the allowance of put any tank washing waters into the Baltic Sea. And after doing that, that would be a wonderful example for IMO, for the International Maritime Organization, to do these kind of things also in other shallow seawater areas, because there is no shallow seawater areas that can handle that kind of chemical amounts that we are currently putting there, and totally legally. Those two things first. And there are other things, but those two things first.
Yeah. Then can you share me your favorite art or storytelling moment that shifted local attitudes?
I have to say I have difficulties to choose one, but I think one of the big moments has been for those people who have listened to Esa-Pekka Salonen's concerts at the Östersjö Festival in Stockholm, because he does not only speak from heart why it is important to save the Baltic Sea, but also through music, and to see these big concerts. And then secondly, I have seen it in our own exhibition 2 years ago in Suomenlinna, when we had 7 current Finnish artists work to, obviously they were paintings, they were photographs, they were videos, they were other installations to talk to people in their own way in this old industrial space in Suomenlinna. And the feedback we got from young to old, from Finns to tourists, that was phenomenal. So really, that exhibition kind of left obviously a permanent mark, I would even say.
How do you think, how can art have an effect on these kind of things? Like if you consider like Helsinki Biennale 2025, how these kind of things can have impact on understanding and conversation about the sea?
They can have a big impact, and I loved this year's Helsinki Biennale, where we also had a wonderful collaboration with a Norwegian art duo called Locus. They concentrated on the eelgrass and basically spoke in the voice of eelgrass from its point of view to us humans. And this point of view was the whole idea of the whole Biennale, to have not the human in the focus, but the other living species, so to say. And it was kind of as a visitor of Biennale or visitor of art, any kind of art, to be open to the discussion between species, so to say. And I think since art can really go under your skin, it can get your tears in your eyes, or just kind of take your breath away, or leave you angry and wondering if this is art and who likes this. Whatever kind of art really manages to have a reaction. And this is something that facts seldom do. So if you have a reaction, you start kind of thinking, what do I love in this, or what do I hate in this, or whatever. And it means that you start thinking about the subject. And if you wonder what did the artist mean or whatever, and is this important, or why is it in this space or place or time, it means that you are already open to this topic. And this is more than for most of the people than the facts can achieve. And we have learned in our ecological work that you cannot save anything you don't love. And you can't love anything if you don't know it. So you have to kind of be able to get under the skin of the people. And I think, and we have seen it, and really with different ways and different people and different ages, you have to use different ways of culture or art. But when you have these moments, they mark the people, and they also obviously start an internal discussion within the humans and the visitors. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful answer. Then zooming a little bit out and looking the big picture, what would be the one change for policymakers now to strengthen the cultural economy?
I understand that we have to cut the state budget in Finland at the moment. And on the other hand, we should really invest in creativity, because we need, even in the production companies, we need creativity and we need courage. And that's something that is both in the cultural industry already. So that's why decision makers actually should put effort in increasing the cultural industry, all those two abilities, in order to get Finland out of this downward spiral. And how to do it? I would say certainly not put any more taxes on any kind of cultural products, if it's books or films or whatever, but rather see to that these industries or this culture gets its state support, at least in the amounts as it has been in the last 2 years. No more cuttings, I would say.
I was just the other day, I was thinking, art is the thing that creates creativity, and then people can invent new things and new ways to better our lives. And also that's the boost of the economy, in a sense.
Yes.
And without the art, there is no new inventions and new things, and even the same things, they might be stuck. And also that has needed some creativity and innovation. So basically, art and creativity, it drives the economy.
It does. And I see that the culture, it's interesting, and I would love to have more time to kind of research why does this word in Finland at least has such a negative bias nowadays? Because if you think, even in our defense diamond or defense policy, what do we actually defend? We don't defend actually the pines, or not even the lakes, or the Baltic Sea or whatever, because we can find those in Sweden or even in Russia or even in some other places. We defend our culture, our language, our history, our way of trusting each other. So its culture is the basis where we do anything else. And that's what I wonder nowadays. What did happen that we have lost this basis or understanding of this basis?
Yeah. What is the one message to the communities using culture for development that you give?
My one message would be that they most probably will be the ones having the best future. Because this is what binds people together, and this is what actually, in a way, also creates new business. So they should really keep on doing that and trusting themselves in doing that.
Then to end, one book or article or cultural experience that has inspired you lately?
Oh, wonderful. Well, at the moment, I've just finished the newest book, newest novel by Joel Dicker, a Swiss Canadian author I like a lot. He's a very good writer and a perfect plotter, so to say. You cannot know in beforehand what is going to happen next. And well, my all-time favorite author is John Irving. His worldview and characters are just unbelievable. But then I have to mention my all-time favorite Finnish author, who is actually a poet, and whose poems I use in nearly any kind of situations. He is Taimieminen. So those I would recommend to nearly anybody and everybody.
Thank you so much, Annamari. It's been wonderful to be with you this hour.
Thank you, Mika, very much.
I am delighted that you were here with me. Thank you for giving your time and attention. New episodes bring practical ideas you can use, clear takeaways, shareable materials. Follow the show, join the newsletter, and tell about ArtMingle to one friend who cares about culture and communities. I am Mika Heikkilä, also known as the artist Mika Oulu. ArtMingle, Insight to Impact. See you next time.